Hey, we're going live. I should do like a little intro music and count down like other serious channels do. Like,
oh God, please don't. I always come to streams live late because I hate that crap.
Right?
Oh,
Now it's easier to just jump into
if I want to go see a preview or a long intro, I'd go to the theater
with trailers and commercials too in front. Yeah. Well, the YouTube stream is live. You know what? I forgot to put my. Let me do something here. See if I can. Oh well, we're doing 720p. This is not a serious show, everybody. We're not professionals. We don't know what we're doing. Well, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. Poor James. I don't know for my mistakes. And I'm glitching. I'm gonna switch from Wi-Fi to Ethernet. Let's see.
Oh, you're not a hardcore geek if you run on Wi-Fi.
I bring the laptop up and down. Let's see. I'm going to turn off the Wi-Fi. I'll disappear for a second. I'll be right. And I'm back now.
Much better.
Perfect. We'll see what it looks like in YouTube when it catches up. Let's get this show started. So, how are you, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Ham2K Chats, where we use the excuse of having written a login application to just spend some time on YouTube talking with cool people, interesting people. And when we can't find either, well, friends from Discord that we invite for the show. I have with me today James, November 6, November Radio Delta, also known as Victor Echo 3, Juliet Lima November, because he moved to Canada and he got himself a nice Canadian call sign. He is known in some of the parts of the world as the lead developer behind POTA and the POTA.app site. He's in charge of making sure that things run on the website, and he's the person people blame when things don't run, which is not always his fault, but he'll take the blame. Welcome to the show, the live stream, this thing, James. Thanks for joining me today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And I will qualify the one thing is I am not the only developer. I'm just the current lead developer. There were others before me. So
the POTA team has a very large. It's not a small team. It's not like 2 or 3 people doing things. There's a significant number of people helping with the maps for each country and take care of the parks, helping with customer support, and all of that. It's a rather large team, right?
Yeah, it is quite sizable. It's the part of the team that takes care of running the team actually has the hardest bit of work, as is the case in most software development projects. Project management is the bane of all of our existences.
I'm smelling burning plastic. I hope nothing is burning.
Did you see me soldering iron in the carpet again?
I don't know.
Actually, that was me as a kid. Whenever you smell burning plastic in my room when I was a kid, it's because the soldering iron fell on the carpet again.
This is definitely burning plastic here. I was doing some FT8. Oh well, if I have to run, please keep the stream going.
No problem.
And entertain the people.
Oh no, that's a step too far. Entertaining people.
Entertaining? Oh, yeah. Just make sure that they don't run away. Yeah.
Yes, Steve, you're definitely in each other's logs a few times.
Steve, every time I go on a park, Steve is hunting me. There's usually very good propagation between Nova Scotia and the and New York and the West Coast in general. He's always there. You can always hear me loud and clear.
Yeah, I'll be out there this summer.
I need to visit Nova Scotia. It's a great part of the world. But let's talk about Nova Scotia and all that. You live in Canada now, but you're American, right?
Yes.
What?
American.
So let's start with the beginning. How did you end up in amateur radio?
Well, my dad was interested as long as I can remember. Before I was born, he volunteered at a Mars station. He was in the Air Force, stationed in Korea. And when he didn't have his normal job, which is working on F-4 Phantom jets, when there wasn't any work to do in the shop, he would go over to the Mars station to hang out and play radio and do foam patches for GIs. And that was before I was born. So as long as I can remember, there's always been electronics and tinkering and ham radio and communications in my childhood. So the thing that kept us early on from getting our licenses was, of course, the code requirement. I have significant hearing problems. That was a big challenge for me, besides the fact that I was a little kid. My dad, I'm not sure, my dad can play music by ear, but code was thrown in for a loop. But I think it was probably more just life was too busy to really sit down and learn it. But anyways, once the node code came available in, what was that, 90 or 91, he went pretty quickly and got his technician. That was back when you had to take novice and tech. And then like a year later, I got mine as well. I was 12 when I got my first license. Kilo Bravo 5 Uniform Mike Quebec, KB5 UMQ. I was in
Back
Texas at the time.
It was KBs, not KDs as they are now.
Yeah. Well, it was near the end of the KBs. It was KB5U.
Yeah, there you go.
So, the KCs came out just a couple months after my call, just going through the alphabet, right? So, and I actually kept that call for 20 years. And then they loosened up the restrictions, of course, along the way about changing to the call area with the number. Mm-hmm. So by the time I renewed the second time, I realized that, my temporary address, I was up here the first time already when it came time to renew the second time. So I was using my mom's address in California for my mail. And I said, you know what? I can get this cool 6 call, N6NRD. Perfect. So I got that as a vanity call. And I was still a technician. And then it wasn't until 2021. I'd been licensed for 28 years. I'd been a technician, and I finally went and got my general a week before field day 2021. And that was primarily because I pulled out an HF rig and threw in it was COVID. I had a FT450 I'd gotten from an estate sale. And so I decided just to throw it up and start thinking about being, studying for general. So I did that, and I found POTA actually, and I was already going to get my general. I didn't know anything about POTA. I had a couple of bad experiences in ham radio in those intervening years, so I was kind of off ham radio. And I decided to give it another try, and it was a people thing, not a radio thing that kept me out of it. But anyways, it's I found POTA just spinning the dial, and one of my first 100 POTA hunts was James, actually, PZN, and I was his first kilo contact ever.
Huh.
So that's mine and James's connection. His first kilo, of course, that was in Chief Logan, but his first 1,000th, it was me. So we kind of hit it off from there. But yeah, like I said, I tested like a week or two before field day. I went to the local field day as a general, a freshly minted general, and everybody went to sleep in the middle of the night, and I ended up running 2 stations for like 5 hours by myself, digital and sideband, on the club setup. That was I was like, hey, if I can run 2 radios, I can do POTA activations, not a problem. So within another week, I was out doing
POTA.
parks. Yeah, it just hasn't stopped. So that's how I got into radio, and then how I got into POTA. But when I was a kid, I would build Yagis for 2 meters, and I did a lot of packet within my band privileges. I did a lot of packet in the '90s when it was a big thing. So, but yeah.
So you were a general for 20 plus. You were a tech for 20 plus year, but
28, yeah, almost 30.
VHF.
Yeah.
You kept doing all the cool things. Ever did any satellites? Any
No
ISS?
No. We my dad not really interested in it, but life got in the way. I don't remember what year it was. 94 maybe. The big mission to go up and repair Hubble. Where the astronauts actually hung out on the arm in the space shuttle and actually grabbed Hubble with their hands. Like, they streamed all that on amateur downlink, and then our local repeater association in Texas was rebroadcasted on one of our alt frequencies, not on the main repeater, but they had another frequency available, so we could actually listen to the whole mission via ham radio. And there were a couple of satellites, there were a couple of AMSATs up then, and we were interested in it, but then we ended up moving to California, and life changed, and I went into high school, and high school is a whole different thing. But
yeah, no, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that because most people either got the bug early and jumped into HF and everything 20-30 years ago, or like realized during 2020, 2021 that there were other interesting things and wanted to communicate. I mean, that was me. I'm a COVID ham. I actually got my license. I was checking here on April 22nd, 2020. I'm about to hit the 5-year mark. But yeah, that you kept active on as a tech somewhat,
off and on. Yeah.
But it you didn't just abandon it after a year or anything like that, and then you got your general, discover field day, discover POTA. How do you end up?
I done field day off and on at different clubs I was at, and that's actually one of those field days at one that I'm not gonna call them out on the internet, but one of the clubs I was at, someplace I lived, it was a really bad experience field day. And let me just say, there's a lot of clubs in the South that really hate atheists. They like to mix. They like to mix politics, religion, and the ham radio. And they decided at the beginning of field day they had to have the Pledge of Allegiance and a word of prayer. And I looked at them going, what does this have to do with ham radio?
Yeah.
I stayed and did, because I had volunteered to be, to help crew for a certain number of hours. I stayed and did it, but as soon as my volunteer time was up, I was out of there, and I didn't touch ham radio for like another 6 years. I disconnected entirely. 6 years. I went before I even thought about ham radio. So yeah, that was one of the incidents. But yeah, it was very strange to me that people mixed all that.
Well, I had my agenda here, my list of things. Let me remove Pledge of Allegiance. I had planning on doing that in 5 minutes, but
I'll just click.
I'll scratch that.
That's why when you said my U.S. call first, I kind of been like, I'm kind of Canadian at the moment, but when I go back across the border, I order them based on where I'm at, right? Like, I'm in Canada, so I always say my Canadian call first.
Yeah.
And then when I'm traveling or whatever, I say my U.S. call if I'm in the U.S. first. So it's.
I need to get myself a Canadian license, because fun fact, I don't advertise that often, but I'm Canadian. I'm Venezuelan, Canadian, American. I was born in Montreal, where my parents were studying there in the 70s.
I was just in Montreal last week for work all week.
Yeah, so
got food
waiting.
poisoning.
Next time I'm in Canada, I'm gonna test. because
So,
you have to be physically in Canada to do testing, even if it's remote.
nope, nope. I don't think
Let's
that's
let's
true.
not
I think
record. Let's not discuss this in public.
yeah, they're working on a rule change. I believe it's in process, but RAC is
Okay.
working on a rule change about the remote. Yeah, you
No,
might be
I
right.
mean it's like
I think you're right.
I
Currently, it is that, but they are
I need an
talking about it.
excuse to go to Montreal.
Why
You know, it's like
Montreal?
I'll
Just come
tell
over
my
here.
wife that too. I'll tell my wife we have to go to Canada to visit because I need to test to get my
Yeah.
VE call.
My local club just finished up our every January through March we do a licensing class, and so it just finished up, and we got nine or 10 new hams. So
I love the story that main girl Whiskey One GRL posted on the comments that she got licensed in '92 to impress her boyfriend. Didn't got active until 23, and now look at you doing all the things, doing DX, doing POTA. It's there you go.
hey,
It's
it's
a
we all go around the planet at the same time, different ways, right? Like
yeah.
I got licensed in '92 as well, but it was because I could. It
Were
was
you
just the
trying to
other thing I
impress a
could do with my.
boyfriend too?
No, I wasn't trying to impress anybody, but yeah, no, it was cool. I could just another thing I could do that was just my dad and I, right?
Look, it worked for main girl.
Well, work depends on your perspective, but the way she said, I'm guessing she agrees.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know them, but it's Whiskey One GRL and Whiskey One BOY.
Yeah,
They,
I
they
think I've
both
actually gotten them once or twice in my
yeah
log. So
they both activate often together.
yeah,
They're
my
great. They're often hanging in the Ham2K Discord. They're helping us a lot with the QSO parties, going out
cool.
and getting all the county names and abbreviations and the rules for all the different
Okay,
states.
that's
That
quite a bit of data collection.
it is. It's like
Yeah.
I mean, not every state has a QSO party, but there's about 50 QSO parties,
Well, are
including
you
like
doing
this.
ours up here?
I'm doing all of them.
Okay.
Even if it looks like a QSO party and it walks like a QSO party, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's interesting that they're both hams. My mom got her license a year after I got mine. She's still a tech to this day. But my my former brother-in-law was licensed. My brother and his wife were licensed at one point, but they let him go. My other brother is a ham. My dad's still a ham. So it's
my
my wife's not the least bit interested. And every time she brings up, why do you need another radio or how many antennas do you need? I'm like, hey,
my
I was a ham before you married me. You get what you get.
I don't have I have the focus set on fixed. So my
Yankee Victor
grandfather was a
5.
ham.
Excellent.
This was his QSL card. My mom found a couple of his cards in a box.
Cool.
Yankee Victor 5 BCS. And the drawing is because it was yo veo cinco bebés comiendo sopa. I see 5 babies eating soup. That's what the call sign would spell. And he did the drawing of the 5 babies.
Five
eating
babies
soup.
eating soup. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got his QSL card. It was and I remember my grandfather and his radio when I was like 7, but then he kind of like stopped doing. I don't know what happened. Maybe the antenna fell off, something like that, and he never went back to it. So when I was a little bit older, when I could have gotten the bug, he was not into radio anymore.
Huh.
And so it took me, I don't know, 40, 50 years later, not 50, but 45 years later, maybe, for me to rediscover the hobby. And now I'm like, yeah, it's deep. It's turtles all the way down. There's so many paths you can take, so many rabbit holes that it's really fun. And so going back to your story, how did you end up connecting with the POTA team?
What was it? There was a couple of trying to remember. It kind of happened a couple different ways. There was a couple of bugs. So I emailed Vance about them. And I'm trying to think what else. I think it was
That's the
mostly just a
usual
couple
trap.
bug.
Is
Yeah,
when you come complaining and somebody turns that into like a judo move and volunteers you to fix the thing you were complaining about.
yeah. So I offered to jump in and help, and I guess they had quite a few people offer to help, and they got them onboarded, and then those people never produced anything. So they were they made me work for it. It took about 6 or 7 months, five or 6 months, somewhere in there. Um, Somewhere around half a year it took of me just beating Vance's door down, trying to volunteer, and he finally caved in and said, "Okay, And so what some of the first things I did was, uh, you know, we had the early log parser had some bugs in it for the first, let's say, couple thousand logs, maybe. But we had some interesting values for like bands or modes. And they were messing up queries because they would throw these one-off values, and you'd end up with, an extra band in your stats. You end up with an extra band that was like 40 space M, and it didn't get sanitized to just 40, right? Stuff like that. So I ended up just going in the database and writing queries to clean up a lot of data that they'd already fixed the code, but they had this legacy data from early versions of the
whatever
code.
got imported before the fix had the wrong
exactly.
values.
And then of course I would fix things, and then a few things as we started fixing more things, of course, a few things that actually caused the code to break because they were written against bad data. Or unsanitized data, more like. But so we, there to be some small code changes, just because those exceptions weren't there anymore, or whatever the case would be. So that's how I kind of got into it, and then I started working on awards. That was where I really we'd get new award designs, and we had to do some work to get them added to the system. Not just the graphics, but also sometimes some of the logic in the code, and there's some database records we have to create, and all of a sudden there's no admin panel for managing all the background data. The only thing that we can edit through the interface is the park itself, entities, programs, location. Yeah, everything behind it, all the metadata, all the awards, all stuff is all hand coded in the database or via script. So
maybe for people who don't know you and want to have a clearer picture, what is it exactly that you do at POTA?
Right now I'm the chief coder, and also I am one of the global data architects, which is, a lot of people know me because the ISO conversion last year and all that drama.
Oh, you are the one who decided, right? I remember that. You're the one who decided that Kilo was not the best prefix, that US was a better prefix.
That was, using a standard is a better option, especially a standard that's well known in the industry, not ham radio, but in IT.
Letter country codes.
Yeah. So, we had been talking about that back and forth for 2 years. And basically I finally was able to make my case of, like, as we're growing, like, these are the things, where using these, granted, it was a set of values from ARRL for the prefixes, but they were random values as far as the world was concerned. They had no meaning.
Tell you, one of the other things I do is I help with the CQDX marathon. It's a year-long competition event program, and I built some code for that too, and I had to clean up the list of prefixes, and there is no official prefix for a bunch of countries. Even the US, the fact that you pick K versus N or A or W is really arbitrary.
Yeah.
And you see, for example, kilo being the prefix used in a lot of DX references. But when you have somebody visiting the US and they want to put up under an agreement to operate, they'll do a /W instead of /K. It's arbitrary. There's no logic to which prefix you should use or not. It's a mess. So I totally understand why you wanted to go to the country codes. That was more clearer and easy to reason and think about what the value should be for a particular park.
Well, yeah, and it's just like it was easy to map to like maps, literally, like Google Maps, for example. If you took the prefix of the map number or the park number off, that map to the map, you didn't have to do all this, oh, where does that belong kind of thing. And and then like you were pointing out, yes, Steve, my fault. Like you pointed out, there just wasn't prefixes for a lot. And then of course when you're validating input, having a not predictable format where that prefix could be one letter, it could be a letter and a number, it could be two letters, it could be three letters and a number in any order, like just random. It made it really hard to sanitize and validate input and data. So it was leading to some of our dirty data just out of necessity. It's like call signs, as you obviously know, Sebastian. Call signs are really hard to validate.
Oh yes.
Yep. And we were reproducing that problem unnecessarily. In the park
with the identifier.
So, So it took me about 6 months of digging through and figuring out the path of, okay, I have to change this program's code because it's using this other program's code, and then I can move this program to where it's supposed to be, which opens up another one for this one to use. Some of them weren't used, like a good one, obviously close to your heart would be, Canada had Victor Echo. Yeah. Oh, Steve just said it.
Steve was activating that day.
Sorry. I wasn't, because I was doing the change. But yeah, Victor Echo is Venezuela, right?
Yep.
So I had to deal with Venezuela, which is a very low popularity program right now, unfortunately. I had to do it before I did where a lot of our traffic is, which is Canada. But I had to open up the CA, or I had you know what I'm saying. I had to open up. So it took me planning to figure that out. And
I applaud the courage you had to take to fix that up. I'm not the kind of person who thinks that, well, if it's working, don't touch it and don't fix it. If it's not working well, I think sometimes you got to prioritize and decide which battles to fight. But it's important to, you want to make things better. I think that it's okay to try to improve continuously, even if there's times of pain and lots of work and suffering and struggle while you fix it. I think that a couple of months after the change, no one barely remembered how painful it was. No one complained about it. We all just moved on, and we now is like Uncle Sam, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And so, and how big is the rest of the development, the tech team at POTA?
At present, there's only 2 people active, mostly because we're in the middle of planning some upcoming changes. We didn't have a whole lot of. Usually, you see a lot of work in the winter because we're all shut in, and then it appears off in the summer. So, but we weren't ready to dive into some stuff this winter. So it was just really myself and Dan, actually, who's here.
And that works.
What's that?
Dan works.
Oh yeah. I have a day job too. But it's we're preparing for some really big things. Let me just put it that way. I don't know if anybody in this group may or may not have noticed, but we just deployed another like 15 hunter awards. Just because we had 10,000 parks hunted award. That was the gorilla.
Uh-huh.
But we had people that were already up past 16,000.
I just got yesterday, my Heliconia angusta hunter, the 2500.
2,500. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, that's the only, I went through and I followed our scheme, and I found the animals and located royalty-free pictures and all this. And then Brian, VE3JLN, is one of our currently our only graphics person, but one of our graphics people, and he helped us get the new certificate designs done. And then of course we had to change out the signature because all the award designs have Jason's signature, and now it's Rick's as our fearless leader now. So the signature was actually harder than the new awards.
Like the dollar bills
Mhm.
that get signed by the Secretary of the Treasury.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that was another thing behind the ISO change was the award system, because everything was basically an arbitrary assignment to a prefix. A lot of our location codes were also arbitrary, and therefore a lot of the awards linked to those things were just arbitrary. And I had spent a year trying to rebuild our certificate system so that we could keep up with it better. But I kept running into, well, thank you, main girl. I kept running into these issues where it's like, if we fix the park references, if we fix the data, these other logic problems aren't as big to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there's a few more of those things where it's like, okay, we need to go the next step in our data to make the next step of logic ready or available, right? So there's so many things that people are begging for on the POTA site, and we've talked about a lot, and it's coming, but there's a lot of background work that we're trying to we're trying to fix the data so that we can make those things possible. And it's hard to do without risking breakage, right?
Yeah. No, it's not easy. I'm going to change the subject because I don't want to go into I don't want to have to ask you when is the public API coming because I'm not going to like the answer.
Yep.
But so one other thing that I found out that you are particularly adept at is the POTA roads, activating more than one or two parks in the same day. What's your current record?
Well, I hold the record with 3 other people. All 4 of us did 51.
51.
51 a single UTC day. Yeah. And that was 4 ops, and we took turns on the mic. We had one dedicated logging person, but my job was primarily navigation and driving, and making sure everybody ate. I don't know why they just kept ignoring food, but yeah. That was when James was actually up here. PZN was actually up here in October visiting, and that I wanted to show him how real was done. Yeah.
Was that over like 20? How many hours?
It was. I have those numbers stashed. If I'd known you were going to ask me specifics, I would have had them out. It was right around 19 actual hours driving and operating. We did go home for a couple hours and take a nap because we were able to plan a route where we did this loop and got us back home. Okay. And then we started again after a few hours sleep and did another big loop, a different direction. So it was actually approximately 19 hours of actual driving plus operating time.
Wow. I'm planning. I did a 15 park road. That's my current record. So I think 5 park, which is the first Rover Award, is actually it's something you can try to do without much planning. It's doable. It requires thinking about it. I think that 10 parks is doable. Above 15, it starts requiring some planning. Some strategizing.
Yeah.
I'm planning on doing
the amount.
20. Yeah. I'm doing 20 in a couple of weeks with the same friend November Yankee 2 Kilo that we did the 15 park, and the 15 was in November when the days were short. So that was a handicapped attempt.
Yeah, I'm lucky here in that we have a good density of parks, but also
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of our parks allow some nighttime access, or they have a parking lot that is available at night. So part of it is local knowledge, right? All these parks I had activated before,
Mm-hmm.
so when you're doing these bigger robes, the prior knowledge um, really comes into play.
And I find that's part of the what I find interesting in POTA is doing the research, is looking at the maps, looking at the locations, where can you operate, where is the good place to do it, going to the park. I mean, during this 15 park, one of the parks is just a multiple use area, they call them here in New York State. So just like a piece of land that the state has set aside for like hunting, trapping, or whatever you want, but
Yep.
there's no infrastructure.
Right.
And this one was just in the middle of not a highway, a parkway, the Taconic. It's an expressway, 2 lanes on each side, so a 4-lane road. There's like a little dirt road that exits the parkway into the trees.
Yeah.
And that's the entrance to the park. Like if you go 50, 65 miles per hour, and then you have to slow down, make sure no one's behind you, and make it into the dirt road to go into the park to activate there. And I looked in the POTA site who had activated that place. There were only a couple of people who've done it. I knew one of them, emailed him and asked, he confirmed that was the entrance. So I find that interesting, the research part, looking at previous activators, getting in touch, looking at satellite maps in different places, Google Maps and Street View and all of that, try to figure out how to make it possible.
I wrote an app to plan my robes. So,
and you've written, but that's not public, right?
No.
You've also written a nice mapping app for POTA, but that's up and down. It's not always. It's kind of like your
it's the POTA Ninja map is literally a playground for things that we will put in the POTA app map when we're ready to put in the new POTA. It's where I'm doing experimentation, basically, for stuff that's actually going to end up in the real map.
I really like the ability to enter your call sign and seeing the maps you've activated and not have activated. That's super useful to me.
Yeah. And that's I have 4 or 5 more times complex data on that for planning my robes. Like I have colored icons in my robe planner for I need 50 more contacts there to get a kilo. Not only have I activated before, but I'm close to a kilo.
But you're close to.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I'll have lunch there while I'm doing my my 20 park robe. I'll have lunch there. I'll get a kilo, have lunch, So I kind of add, so. But I mean, when you start getting into 30, 40, 50 parks, you start zooming in on the map down to, am I on the right side of this hill, or going around that hill going to waste time to get to the next park?
Is this the shortest, the nearest place?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. I want to try to activate all parks in New York State, and that's the large. It's like 840 something parks. It's a very, New York State is big.
Yeah.
It also has a lot of state parks.
Yeah.
And I'm only at like 60 something now, but with the 20 park row, I'll get to 80, which is like 10% of the parks. But I think that to do it, I need to do a bunch of rows, like take a weekend and go to the Western New York, Jamestown, and that area, and do 20 parks in that corner, and then come back home, and a month later do another little weekend expedition like that.
I was actually just having this conversation with my wife last night that when I look at doing rows, I look at diesel cost to part count. Because for me
Try
to
to
get new to me,
maximize
yeah, for me to get new to me parks,
parts per gallon.
yeah, pretty much. Um, you know, it's I have to think about, like, if I'm going to expend $200 in diesel, I'm going to do a 20 park row. I'm going
Yeah,
somewhere where I can do this little circle. Even if I'd sleep in the truck because I got to drive up the night before in order to, do the
to get
rows.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, you know, um, because I've expended all the several hundred parks that are within a couple hours of me.
but
So
no, we're not obsessed. We don't have a problem.
absolutely
It's
not.
that's why we call it a hobby. It's the
Yeah, it's
excuse
a
you need
hobby.
to do stupid thing
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
No,
Well, it's
totally,
like
100%.
I'm going out to Newfoundland this year with the camper. I'm gonna be on the island for a month, and I'm gonna hit. Well, my wife and I are talking. I'm gonna hit at least half the parks on Newfoundland.
And get a
Um,
couple of kilos.
I probably will because I'm gonna be there for field day.
Uh huh.
So I'm actually going to be in a national park, Terra Nova National Park, for field day. So I'll be pumping out.
That'll be
Yeah,
a.
I'll get at least a kilo
Mhm.
there. So yes, I've done many urban parks, and in fact, in St. John's, Newfoundland, I'm going to do. There's a bunch of urban parks that some of them are like brass plaques set in a wall, and there's like a park bench, and there's nowhere for a vehicle or anything like that. I'm actually doing a bicycle row, 20 parks on a bike in St. John's, Newfoundland this summer to get a bunch of atnos actually in St. John's.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm planning the same friend Jay. We've discussed about doing a. It's not a maritime because it's in the river, but doing a 5 park row on a sailboat in the Hudson River.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
From the sailboat. That there's 5 parks at least that have um, that go into the river. That the boundaries of a park cover the river, so we can do 5 park row on the Hudson River on a sailboat this summer. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, like a lot of New York, we have lakes and ponds everywhere here,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a number of POTA designated parks that are water access only. Um, so I haven't bought a canoe, but that's coming soon. My buddy's
Woody
got a sailboat, but it's a little bit too big. It's a lake size sailboat, not a.
Woody is another good friend from the. I mean, he's been here in the stream. He says that he's planning to do some bike activations, and we were talking about the New York City has a couple of really tough urban parks because the park is basically a building in the middle of like in the middle of Wall Street or in the middle
Yeah,
of Union Square, and like you would have to get into the I don't know, the stoop of the building and try to operate there. There's no place to put an antenna. You have to do all like handheld.
yeah,
Um, you can probably activate it with a roaming group of 6 people with HTs, but that's kind of like I don't know if I wouldn't call it cheating, but it's not the most challenging way to solve it. I
yeah.
like the challenge of going there with a QRP radio, a little compromised antenna, and doing a CW or digital activation to try to do it from within the spirit of ham radio, and try to get people from outside that small group of friends to hunt the park to
Yeah.
get it for their
Yes.
records.
Yeah. I've been like doing a lot of street view and doing research online, some of these historic markers and stuff in St. John,
Hmm.
because I want to make sure that I give at least other people a decent chance to hunt, especially the atnos, right?
Yeah,
Um, and if I can get it to resonate, it's my main setup is going to be an 891 um, with a ham stick on the bike. So I will be able to, I mean, how close can you get to a brass plaque that's mounted in a brick wall? Like it's a historic marker. Like
I
if I'm within a couple feet of that brass plaque, I figure I'm good. So
the 3 feet, the 3 square feet in front of a plaque should count as the
yeah,
boundaries of a park.
yeah, that's what I figure. Especially
Or
when when they have a little park bench there that's obviously designated to be part of that,
Or you could apply the rules for two-dimensional parks, basically trails. When the park is a line and not a shape, a polygon, then you have to be within 100 feet of the line.
See, now you just triggered my GIS nerve. Trails and waterways are still polygons. They are just significantly narrower in one dimension than the other. They are still polygons.
They could be defined as polygons, but they don't always are. That's part of a problem.
Yeah, and that's where, I mean, and this is switching back to my POTA data architect kind of. We leave up to the activators, especially when it's a historic monument or something that's like a cairn of rocks or it's a brass plaque. It's like, make a judgment call. Like we can't arbitrate every single one.
And I like that too about the POTA program, that it gives you a good set of guidelines, of rules as to what should count as an activation. But then it takes your word for it.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't ask you to demonstrate with a notary that you are actually within the boundaries of a park. It says, if you claim you activated it, you did. And it's on you. If you want to lie about it, you're lying to yourself, and to your peers. And, it's like, if you want to be stupid, then be stupid, whatever. If it makes you feel good, claim the park. But
exactly.
Otherwise, it doesn't put any friction in front of somebody who just wants to have fun and do things for their own amusement. And they know if they're doing it right or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And quite frankly, hunters especially are smart enough to realize that, if an activator is doing things that are, they don't particularly agree with, that are, on one side of they're, in the spirit of the rules, for example, people just stop hunting them. Like, it's like every micro society in the world, eventually, I'm wondering if I should take a radial lead and be able to tape it to the side of the plaque and use it as part of my ground plane.
That counts. Yeah,
that'll definitely count if I can make it part of the resident system.
I've talked about it a couple of times, but like the county rules are that's another program that requires strict demonstrations of whether you were in the, especially when you do like multi-county activations for things like European parties and for QSO parties and things like that. But I spent hours going over maps looking for good county line activation. There are locations for New York QSO party. There are also POTA parks, because that's my secret for QSO party high scores. Do POTA, and if you can, do a 2-county, be in a county line, and that doubles your score. Each one of those things doubles your scores, basically. Like doing POTA during a QSO party will give you twice as many contacts, at least. It's
I like to find ways to. I'm I have background as an automation engineer, and I hate doing things manually. So if I like for a field day, I'm going to do it. It's going to be POTA as well, right? Like field day points and POTA points, no problem.
Yep.
Yeah, the boundaries aren't made up, Brian.
I mean, they are, except the ones that are rivers. All the other boundaries were made up by somebody.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah. Not by POTA, though.
Right.
Yeah.
The yellow dots are made up by POTA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't believe the amount of crap we get about, that dot's not in the park. Well, yeah, actually it is. It's technically dead center, mathematically speaking, from a GIS standpoint.
Yes. The centroid of the polygon.
Yes, the centroid of the polygon.
Yeah.
Try explaining that to people who barely use email.
And then it
takes all kinds.
But also a lot of the yellow dots, I don't know how many of them, but some state or country map reps have done the effort of putting the yellow dot at a good activation location.
Yeah.
Like at the parking lot of a park or the entrance or a good field.
Yeah.
But not all of them are a good location to operate.
No,
So you have to do your research.
That's one of the. I have multiple panes in my rove planning tool, and one of them is I actually load up the just help at parksontheair.com, Brian. In my rove planning tool, I have one mode where I can actually move dots, move the markers on the map. So like I have parks here that have great spots for activating, but they're not the most efficient on the routes I go. Like they're on a different concession road or something, right? And the route I'm going, I can do it on this side of the property as opposed to that side of the property. So I'll move my marker to this side, and I save basically my custom markers. And so when I load the map, I have markers that are different colors, and I know which ones I've customized. Because sometimes they're great spots, or sometimes they're generic spots, and I have my ones I've found. Like we have a park here where if I do it in one spot, it's a 2-fer, but if I go around the bend, it's a 3-fer.
Oh yes, no, don't get started with the 2-fers and 3-fers and N-fers. But that's also like for these 20 park row we're planning, that's a corner of downstate New York that has 3 trails going through it: the
Nice.
Appalachian Trail, the Washington Rochambeau, and the Empire Trail. Right. So if we find a good location in each one of the parks, then we have 3 stops that count for 6 parks. And that's part of the research you need to do to be efficient at roving.
Now, I got in 2022, I won the Rover Plaque Award, and N-fers were not permitted. So I got credit for 65. Now that's in 2 days. But that at the time, I was the first person to do 2 30+ roves in 2 days back to back.
2 days.
Yeah. So a lot of the 51 park we did in October with 4 of us was a lot of the same circuit.
The same circle.
Yeah.
So James, I'm not going to repeat myself and say that you have a problem, but you have a problem. Just saying.
Sure. Which problem are we talking about?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That I think that the problem is you haven't tried hard enough to do the 70 park rove.
Oh, well, I have a 65 planned.
That's I don't doubt that you can pull it off. You might have to try a couple of.
I'm pretty sure now. And here's the other thing to keep in mind: when you start doing the bigger roves, you need a partner.
Yes,
it would be insane to do that amount of driving and activating, and having no break. You need, like, even if you can crawl in the back seat or lean the seat back and close your eyes, even if you don't snooze or anything, close your eyes. Rest your eyeballs. Like, it's because you're doing more than half your driving in the dark usually when you're doing these kinds of roves. Like, so the thing is, I need to find, in order to do the 80 is the best I think I can do. In order to find the 80, I need to have a driver, somebody to help me drive, who isn't activating. And the thing is, all my friends want to activate too.
Or 2 people. You need a team.
Yeah,
because to do 80, you kind of need all 24 hours. You need to start the night before.
The dead time, you're transferring between one loop and another loop of parks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Because at 2 a.m, you're not going to find too many activators, too many hunters.
You can do FT8 and just get your 10 and out.
Yeah, that's true.
I always keep that in my back pocket in the middle of the night. Like, I'd rather, actually get POTA hunters intentionally, but I keep it in my back pocket. I can just wing up FT8, get your FT4, get 10 quick contacts and move on, right?
Yeah. Have you ever set up for a rove and discovered that the sun has blew up the ionosphere and we're like at KP6 and?
Nope. I've just gone ahead and done the rove anyways.
It's part of it. And the other thing, when you did that when you do any significant rove like that, do you have people helping you hold a frequency?
Sometimes, not necessarily planned, but there's groups of parks for me that are literally within 3 or 4 minutes of each other. So like holding the frequency is almost accidental, you know. And in fact, a couple times I've had to jump in and say, "Shut up already! I've been waiting." You know, I need my frequency. What's happened a couple times is like N3XLS, and somebody else I've done it with. They were activating, and we shared the frequency, so they were activating between my robe stops. And then they would just tell whoever's in their pileup, okay, the next stop of the robe is here. Talk to him, and I'd get my 14, 15, whatever, and then I would say, okay, back to whoever, and they would get them again for their part, right? And so sometimes that works well, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, obviously when we did the 51, I set up a dashboard for our hunters. I actually built a little web page so they could see, and it had ETA, drive time ETAs, and like, I even had a button that said we're at lunch, like.
I'm thinking
now I know. Good.
For New York User Party this year, I'm trying to see if I can do it's not going to be a big POTA road. It's going to be 5 or 6 parks, but I want to do, instead of last year, I did one single location. It was a park and county line. This year, I want to try to do 2 or 3 county line parks, and then there's a couple of more parks I can do after night. Because the New York User Party ends at 10 p.m., but a lot of the good parks close at dawn, at dusk. So it's not I cannot operate from there. But if I go to the great park locations, there are 2 counties, and operate there for 3 hours until it starts slowing down, and then I drive 20 minutes for the next park, and then operate another couple of hours, and then I keep driving. And because I find that in moments like that, you do lose some time trying to find a frequency to operate. Yeah. But if I keep the radio in the truck as I drive, or like we keep operating, like for QSO Party, you can actually make contacts and they will count as you drive, and keep the frequency active so that when we get to the next park, it's 0 time to get started. I think that's the key to do it. I might even give it a shot at during this 20 park rove to just try to see what it means to hold the frequency active as we drive. If only talking with people, how far we are from the next park.
We've done that a couple of times. I know Tom's been on the radio and just kept talking to people and done that. And Brian pointed out when we did the 50 part road, we definitely had a lot of people throughout the whole process that were taking turns sitting on the frequency. But yeah, it's the trick with the speed robes though is you tend to get the same people at every park.
Yeah,
because you're taking the loudest, clearest, 12, 14, 15 you can get.
And if you're doing 50 or 60 or 80, you only do 10, 12 contacts per park and you move on. You cannot like that. I think that when we're doing 20 parks, we have a little bit of a luxury. We can do 20 minutes, 30 minutes per park if there's a pile up and try to get the park for people who want it. But if you're doing 50 or 80, it's 10 and move on.
Yeah, and fortunately, a lot of our hunters understand when you're doing a speed rove versus just casually activating versus a regular rove. And I might hear 4 or 5 calls clearly all at the same time, and I'll call them all back all at once and give them a signal report, and I'll get an acknowledgement for all of them, but it's you just made 5 contacts in the space of like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Are you like James that you can hear all 5 calls in a pileup at the same time?
I'm not as good as him. I can hear 5, 6, 7 calls usually, but they don't stick in my head the same way they stick in his.
Yeah.
If I have my scratch pad, I can write down 5 or 6 or 7 and have enough that I can call all of them in a row. But yeah, he's got an extra weird
Yeah.
level to that ability.
Yeah. No, I can hear one good call and a couple of partials, pile up, and I'm happy when I get that. But I was there with him in Orlando, and I could hear him. I don't know where he heard. Part of it that he knows the people. So if he hears one letter, and he knows the full call sign from that last letter,
he talks to the same 50, 60, 70, 80 people almost every single day. Yeah, it's like Dan made a good point. When you're doing a 50 park robe, you're not spotting on POTA.
Yeah, no, you need it's
Dan helped me write a script for that. Yeah,
you cannot wait the minute, 2 minutes it takes for spots to refresh and show up on people's and
we did a special channel in PZN's Discord, and my script was connected to Dan's bot to do posts of what we were doing.
I have a not secret, but let's call it advanced feature in Polo that can send webhooks, can call URLs, and that includes Discord. So when it spots, you can send it to like special channels on Discords with whatever message you want to send, for things like this, to like very customized, semi-private, if you wish, or community specific uses that are not just spotting to the main spotting site for the activity. Yeah,
I would love to do more of my robes and spot on POTA, but unfortunately you'll get that random person who doesn't understand you're doing a robe and wants to talk about the weather, and even just listening to them, you just killed your robe timing. And it's, you don't want to be rude, right? It's a trade-off, right? So I hate making the robe available to selective hunters, but when you're doing 40, 50, 60, you kind of have to.
And when you're doing a speed robe, is more about your achievement as an operator, than getting the hunting credits.
Yeah, and we have hunters. When I say we, I mean, I steal from James's minions when I'm doing robes. They're really good, and like if I'm going to a park that they haven't hunted yet, and it'll be a new unique park for them to hunt, they'll let me know, hey, I'm not going to hunt you at all these other parks, but I
want this one.
I want this one. And when I can, I try to do that for them, because that's the trade-off. You can get them something and they're giving you something. And then of course you have the craziness like the Rose family in Michigan. And that's all 6 call signs. And by the time you say all 6 call signs, you're done with your activation, pretty much, right? Like
Dan, I built a feature in Polo just for the roses for Dan.
Yeah.
Where he can like just enter shortcut and it puts all 6 call signs right away.
Yeah.
You can get them on the log in 10 seconds. You have all 6 of them in the log.
I have a basically macros I wrote on. I don't run Polo, but I don't, and you know why. But I run hammers on my Linux laptop, and I have a macro overlay that certain combination of my keyboard, and I basically have what is it? Shift Windows key R, I think, is the Rose family, and boom,
it enters all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I shared a screenshot with you, and I've been posting a couple in the Ham2K Discord. But this weekend I started putting serious effort in the desktop version of Polo that will run on Linux and Windows and Macs.
If you could have that ready before I go out east, that'd be so awesome.
When are you going out east?
Well, I'm leaving. I don't know the exact date. The ferry is mid June 16th. So I'm leaving beginning of June.
I think that by June there's a good chance that we'll have at the very least I'm not going to call it a private beta or something like that, but like a limited access test version. Well, I don't think it'll be all the features in Polo, so we won't be putting it out publicly just yet. but it'll be enough to log and activate and spot and do all those things. It's moving along faster than I was fearing, or
Are you using
I'm being more
Electron?
productive than I thought, and it's coming along well. So by June, they'll probably have something you can use.
Yes, Steve, the ferry is booked. we booked it like we went ahead and just booked a month on the island, and we're still planning what we're doing on the island. Because we just booked a month so we can lock in the ferry.
I need to plan that. Apparently, it's too late for me to plan it for this year, but I've also been talking to my wife about doing a little month-long camping / working remotely vacation.
Yeah, that's what I do, right? My job, especially in Canada, I have to get special permission if I want to go other places. But in Canada, I can work from anywhere, and I've got I hate to say it, but I have Starlink.
And I'm looking at the POTA map. There's a lot of all-time new ones in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, and it's more than half the parks have never been activated.
Yeah, well, I mean, you zoom into St. John's, Newfoundland, and there's some Atnos there.
Yeah.
And I have a coworker who lives just a few minutes from Port aux Basques, where the ferry lands, the short ferry lands in Newfoundland. So like, and she's an off-road dirt biker, me too. So like, I'm going there and we're going to work, but yeah, we're going to go riding for a couple days.
Like, and Saint Pierre and Miquelon are also like there's a bunch of parks that only 2 have been activated out of like 20.
Yeah, a bunch of them are new, just recently added. And that's France, by the way.
Yeah, that's France.
You must be an advanced, a U.S. advanced extra or a Canadian advanced in order to do the reciprocal there. We decided not to go to St. Pierre and Miquelon on this trip, and therefore not put pressure on me to upgrade one or both of my licenses before the trip. I just have too many things going on. But yeah, that would be a stroke, Papa Mike stroke.
It'll be good to do a 20 park rove in Saint Pierre and Miquelon. Like, I think it's gonna be tough to do it in one day, the whole thing. But you can probably do it in 2 days. Although some of those parks are really not that accessible. Now that I look at it, there are not that many roads in the island.
No, who needs roads though?
I mean, but you need ways of getting. If you want to do a rove, you need quick access.
Yeah. If you're going for an actual rove award, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
yes.
It's timing. But just to activate them all, yeah. It's like if I do all the parks I have planned for my bike route in St. John's, that's going to be a 20 park rove in a day on a bike. But I'm leaving myself that I want to bail in the middle, because St. John's is a lot of up and down, right? I'm leaving myself the out that if I want to bail, I can do 2 10 parks or a 15 and a 6, or I'll make a judgment call depending on how I'm feeling and how it's going, because it's going to be noisy. It's urban, Yes, yeah, it's a serious nerd.
That's a good challenge.
Extreme. Yeah, and I actually have a plan all done for doing a bicycle-based rove in Washington, D.C. That's in my back pocket for whenever I get a chance to do that. And there's a couple of other spots. Montreal could potentially be a bicycle rove. Quebec City, Saint Jerome. There's so many historic things on the St. Lawrence that so much beard. Yeah, this is half.
You can probably do a good setup with an 891 and an ATAS in a bike. That's small enough to be bikeable.
I don't have an ATAS.
The ATAS could help. It'll probably need a counterpoise or something.
Yeah,
you don't have
yeah. I'm thinking the Ham2K's probably going to need at least a counterpoise. I was hoping it can be like one wire I can just string along the curb, or
because
and I
probably do Just
Good.
one, like one band. You're not going to be switching bands.
I'm actually strapping a tube to my main bike tube, and I'm gonna have two bands with me.
20 and
I'll have
40 or
well, depending on the propagation, it'll be 20 for sure, but then the second one will be 40 or maybe 15 or 10. Yeah, because
good.
from Newfoundland, like Europe's a lot closer.
True.
So like, I'm
True.
also hoping while I'm out there to hunt a bunch of new to me parks I can't get from here, or I don't.
I mean, ask the Canadians, ask Steve what the propagation normally looks like there, and you would probably get a good set of information to decide which bands are your best bets.
Yeah. So
well, James, I'm not gonna keep you up any longer. This has been very fun, informative, and I didn't ask about the public API more than once.
There's no public API.
That's the thing, exactly.
Yep. There will be one, and it will be very nice and featureful,
eventually,
and supported and fast. But again, we have to fix some of the problems we have before we start doing that. We actually have. I'm not going to call people out because I haven't done the reporting to narrow it down. We have enough people hitting the API that it's actually causing problems at different times. They'll do big queries and our maintenance jobs
because we're not meant to be.
It's not meant to support external traffic. So it's before the real public API is available. We're trying not to tell people they can't use what's there.
Well, as I think that Polo might be responsible for some of those spotting calls, and I'm gonna say that I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for that. No, I'm not really sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. Is like if it gets much worse, I'm gonna have to start doing some pretty in-depth reporting on it and figure out potentially who or what is causing some of the spikes. And I might have to put some throttling in or just block.
Well, you know where to find me.
Yeah. So nobody's doing anything malicious intentionally. It's just it wasn't designed to support external calls.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's it's what happens when you use a wrench to drive nails. If you do it long enough, the wrench gets deformed.
Yeah.
Right. It's still a tool, but so we're trying to balance it and not have to take any action and kind of just hobble our way through. But there's this whole I can only spend so many hours of every day of my life working on POTA. I want to actually activate and camp, and I have a day job, and
I know the feeling.
I have a marriage.
Yeah, that too. In fact, I'm gonna end up this stream now because I need to go take care of the non-ham radio activities in this house.
Yeah.
This was fun having you here, James. Thank you very much for your time.
Real quick, I must say happy birthday to Dan, by the way.
Happy birthday to Dan. Very much. Feliz cumpleaños to Dan.
Feliz cumpleaños.
I hope you're having a good time. And I'll be seeing you in a few weeks in Dayton, I hope. And I mean Dan, not you, James. Yeah, you're not going to Dayton, sadly.
No, the ferry ate my Dayton budget.
Yeah.
Pour diesel in somebody else's engine.
Yeah. But yeah, I one of these days I'll show up in your neck of the woods and we'll go for a 5-park rove in a couple of hours.
Couple of hours?
For a 5-park rove.
I can go get seated at a restaurant. And before they come we could leave again before they bring the food and we could hit 5 parks.
I believe you.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. 73s. And we'll see you all next week, I hope.